Coal. Let's start with coal. 51% of our electricity comes from coal. The electricity sector is 40% of the greenhouse gas emissions in the atmosphere. Coal is slated to become an even greater portion of our portfolio. In China and India, it's 80% of their portfolio. Coal now moves all over the world. It's a world commodity. Its price is set by demand around the world. Coal from the Powder River Basin of Wyoming is being burned in Guangdong province. And so what do we do with coal? The United States has over 200 billion tons of coal in the ground. We're called the Saudi Arabia of the world when it comes to coal. Projections are we have enough coal to supply us with electricity for 200 years. But we also know that coal is the most CO2 intensive fuel on the planet. And we know some other things about coal that are going to make this choice, which I'm going to frame for you, exquisitely painful. Cradle to grave, from mining to disposal, there is no energy source on the planet worse than coal. Think about it. Have you ever seen the pictures of mountaintop removal in the Appalachia? Do you know where the coal that's being burned in New England is coming from and the electricity that most of us are getting is coming from? Go to the websites and look at the pictures of what's happening to the communities in Appalachia. Then move along the coal life cycle to combustion. I already said it's the largest single source of CO2. But that's not the only thing it's a source of. SO2, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxides, precursors of not only acid rain, but ozone, precursors of PM 2.5, fine particles that bury themselves deep in lungs. Coal-fired power plants, according to EPA's data, are responsible for over 30,000 premature deaths per year in the United States, in the Northeast, from exposure to fine particulates. How about mercury? Coal-fired power plants, largest single source of mercury on the planet. What does methyl mercury do? Bioamplifies up the food chain. Who's the end receptor? Mothers. Fetuses. Fetal counts of methyl mercury are climbing. Premature deaths, impairment of mental faculties. Centers for Disease Control has documented empirically all of these things and traced them directly to the burning of coal. There are other kinds of emissions. Move to the disposal end of the spectrum. What are we doing with coal waste, combustion waste, fly ash and combustion waste? Heavily toxic, heavy metals, organics, inorganics, toxins of every kind and description. Do we regulate them as hazardous waste? We do not. We do not. For the same reason we allow mining companies to blow the tops off of mountains, we're not about to confront the political power of the coal lobby and regulate their waste the way it ought to be regulated as hazardous waste. And what's the consequence? More and more studies showing groundwater contamination, contamination of drinking water supplies. How many times are we going to destroy a drinking water source before we don't have any more drinking water sources that we can rely on, even with the expenditure of enormous sums to try to clean them, filter them, treat them?
This excerpt is brought to you by the Massachusetts School of Law, the leader of reform in legal education and a leader in multimedia education for the public. To view the full interview and for a full listing of MSL's programs, log on to mslaw.edu.